All right, we're getting back on this 9560 here. We just got to get this cylinder together. I've got everything repacked. And I tried the hose clamp thing holding that inner snap ring on the other cylinder. And it worked okay. Then it popped off. Then I had to end up using screwdrivers to get that in. So we're going to get this in there and then repin it and roll this out the door. Okay, so I pounded this end in there, and it looks as though the hose clamp works. So we're going to take that off, make sure that snap ring made it in through the entrance of that bore, and then I pulled the O-ring off that sets in that end of this end cap here, just so that the hose clamp wouldn't rip it as it moved this way. So we'll get the hose clamp off, and we'll see if that snap ring made its way into the groove. If it didn't, we had to put a little pressure on it, work our magic with a couple of screwdrivers just to try to manipulate that snap ring into place. So the other one I worked probably a half hour on the other night, gave up on it, came back to it yesterday morning, and the snap ring, I was able to manipulate it with screwdrivers. It only took me 5 minutes to get it together. This one so far, if that clamp worked, took me less time than it took to put that other one in yesterday. Alright, so we're going to drive this in, and we got to drive it in past so that that inner snap ring can walk by it, and then we'll bring it back. There's that. Now, try to pull this out. Okay, so that has went into place. And this is how these cylinders are supposed to move. You're supposed to be able to move them by hand. And then yesterday, of course, before we took this guy apart, this damn thing just, you know, it took all of it, all as we could put into it, just to get the cylinder out. So this is another cute job getting this big snap ring on. So we're going to shut the camera off because there's probably going to be some adult words thrown about here. So we'll get this snap ring on, and I've got a new hose to put on here because this guy here is, it's seen better days. So I ended up putting one on the other side as well. Okay, she is all back together. I threw some paint quick on the end of that cylinder where we burned the paint off, and I ended up painting the rear end there. So everything's good to go. We're going to take this down and hook it onto the chisel plow. Now, just for the record, in the last video, we claimed that we put this rim on the C5, this broken rim that got welded. I did it as a joke. So any of you kids watching at home, do not weld a rim. Just to put it out there, because I'm sure some of you think it's cool to do that. But yeah, so that is going to go in the scrap iron truck. We're going to roll this out, get this floor cleaned up here, and then we're going to pull the next thing in. we've got the chisel plow in here, and we've got to do a quick little patch job on this. I ended up welding it quick up in the field the other day right here, and along there at the bottom. It has cracked on this extended rear frame on both sides, and it is also cracked on this other one on both sides. So what I'm gonna have to do is make a plate on here to weld over the top of that and get that stiffened up some. So we've got that to do. The other thing we have to do is we have to run through this skid steer here. We just got this the other day. We're gonna run a grease gun around it, torque the wheels down, put the serial number and everything into the system here. We just got it here a couple of days ago. This is a 320G. We usually run the 318s. However, they were sold out of the 318s and they weren't due to get any in until like October. So this is a little size. This is one size bigger than what we regularly run, but it's the same length skid steer as a 318E. The 318G that we have is a little shorter, so this should work nice in the barns. We don't like to run the real big skid steers cleaning barns or pushing feed in or anything. What we like to do when we push feed in, we like to turn the skid steer crossways and pick up feed against the curb. This one here has just hand controls in it. All of our skid steers that we use for chore machines are hand and foot controls. So this is going to be a little bit of a different animal here to use around the barns. However, the guys use our 326E, and that has only hand controls. So they should be somewhat used to these hand controls by now. Jared, he ended up getting a hood on the 4020 along with the John Deere nameplates down on the side there. He's got some decals yet to get on the side panels. He's got to get the seat and the rock shaft guard, whatever else like that, but he's been working on this engine here. He's got it just about ready to go back in the tractor. He's got the exhaust manifold to put on it yet, but he ended up getting the overhead done. He's got the valve cover on. He's got all the fuel system is just about ready to go here. And yeah, other than that, what do you got left?
Oh, we got to do the seals. We got to get the special seal installers for the front and the rear. And then not a whole lot. You got the oil filter housing. I don't have the O-rings for that. You got the fuel filters. They bolt on somewhere in there, I think right here. That'll go on after the filter housing because, you know, it's just easier that way. But that's
yeah.
pretty much it.
All right, so we better get working on that chisel plow. Are you going to run a grease gun around that skid steer, or are you going to get spread manure? Yeah. All right, I'll get you a grease gun. All right, we've got all the information in the computer. When we buy a piece of equipment, we put it into the Tatum's program. When we bought it, how much we paid for it, what we traded. We put the serial number for the machine in there, and then any type of service work or repairs. We can keep track of everything and keep things documented so that we can just, I don't know, keep an eye on things. Mainly, we put the oil filter numbers in and all that kind of stuff, and then when we go to do service on something, we can make sure we have the filters ahead of time. So we bought this 320 instead of a 318 because they didn't have any 318s in stock, like I was saying earlier. And we've been buying 318s right along from the 318Ds all the way up through the Gs. The 318G is like, the back end comes like right to here. So it's a lot more compact, This is about the same length as a 318E. It's a little bigger machine. The neighbor farm, they've been buying 320s from the start, right on through from the D's right on all the way up through for the barn cleaning machines. Back in the day when we were running the old 200 series skid steers, we were running bigger tires on them, and this has got the 12-16-5s. The 250s, they had the 12-16-5s, then we went to the 318s. They had 10-16-5s. So we do have a spare for this one here, and then there's a 10-16-5 there for the other skid steers. These tires here are a little better than your regular skid steer tire. This is a Galaxy Hulk. We've been running them for quite a while. They come standard on these skid steers. This one here is a Kimso or something like that. They're Camso. What the heck is it? Camso something or other, IKS or something like that. SKS 753. That's not a bad tire. I feel the Galaxy Hulks are a little better. So we're going to let the guys start using this now. Andrew's going to roll it on out of the shop here and let the guys start using this. We do have hand controls like I was talking earlier on the 326 and the 333D that we have. The chore machines are hand and foot controls, but this is all they had in stock, so we settled for it. So it looks like a real nice machine, doesn't it, Bub?
Yeah, I like it.
You like it? We'll jump in the cab here and look things over. It's just your basic skid steer. Ugh. It doesn't have a radio in it. We don't feel it needs a radio, but it's all pretty basic. Got air conditioning and heat. Full cab. All right, you're gonna roll it across the road. We'll get the panel on there and you can run her across the road. All right, he's gonna take this across the road and the guys are gonna start using it for calf chores here in the morning. All right, so we just happen to have all three skid steers here parked in a row. The 320 is parked next to the 326E, and then the 318G is over here on the other side, and you can see that that's quite a bit shorter than the 320G. The 320G is roughly the same length as the 318E. Over in front of the shop over here is the Kubota skid steer that we bought back in October. We've got a problem with the detach mechanism there. The rocker switch is bad, so we got to get working on that tomorrow. We bought that back in October. We've got two of those machines, and that one's got like 850 hours on it, so we'll have to get working on that tomorrow. All right, so we're getting ready to weld this here. I ended up taking the unit right off of the chisel plow. The girls were putting tips on this chisel plow the other day. I gave them everything they needed. I gave them a grinder to cut the bolts off that didn't want to come off. I gave them an impact, all the bolts and the tips that they needed. However, they didn't have a welder with them, and they noticed these two beams here cracked. So I went up there and I just welded it fast, just to kind of hold it together so that it wouldn't break any farther. All that was holding this is this top plate here and this bottom plate, and that was the only thing from keeping it from coming right off. So if you look inside this beam, it's cracked right here, and we're going to be able to weld that there. And then what I have is I have 4 of these plates that we're going to set on there like that, and we're just going to weld them around it too to kind of beef it up a little bit. So I've got a little bit of welding here to do. We'll get that one welded, roll it over, weld the other side, get it bolted back up on there. Then we'll have to do the same thing to that one. We'll have to unbolt it, take it off, get it down on the floor. I could weld it in place, however, I'm not going to be able to get that weld on the inside, and that's somewhat critical. And I'm not going to be able to weld this here because the blue part of the frame is going to be in the way. So we just got to get things sized up here, and we're going to start doing some welding. All right, I've got this guy all welded up. I've got my plates on there. Then I ended up welding that 4-bolt plate on the bottom. I come down through the side here, and then I ended up doing the side there. Plates are on both sides. I V'd that out on the inside, and I laid a bead of weld down in there. Probably all I would have to do is just weld that inside there, and it would be fine. But this piece here is going to strengthen it, and then this being welded down here is going to strengthen it as well. So now we got to try to get it lined up on there. I'm alone here right now, and then we'll unbolt this one and do the same thing to that. Well, we've got our work done on this chisel plow. Right now we're going to pull this tractor out, and we're going to bring it in and put some wheel weights on it. These wheel weights here were off the duals on the 7290, and this 8360 doesn't have any on the duals. So we ended up having to weld this row unit here too, and we got that plate on there. Had to replace a couple of the bolts, and this one had bad bushings up in this spring end. So we've got that on there. Now we're just going to turn this around, pull this tractor in, and put these wheel weights on there. Are you up for the task?
Yeah.
We're going to lift them on there. All right. Oh, what is that? A 205, which is a 450, and a 72 kilogram, which is a 150. So we might as well get these on there, and then you could go spreading boxes all with Andrew. All right. All right, we have the weights on this side. Now, you might be asking, why is the heavier one on the outside? Well, the inside one is the actual starter weight, and it's got more of the flat surface. That fits against the rim, and then you could stack these other ones on the outside. Then the next weight, you would stuff a separate bolt in through here, and then they would mount that way. So what do you think of that? Looks like the 8320 now.
Just wondering, like, you really could tell, like, in a field with the weights on it?
Well, it actually takes more power to not have enough weight on there, because it takes more power to spin the tire. Yep. And you lose power if that tire is spinning all the time. So if you can keep traction, you actually use less power. So this tractor probably doesn't need the weight on there, but being that it doesn't have any weight on the duals, we could actually wear out the dual more than we can the inside tire, because the inside tire will be down getting traction. Then this outside one is kind of slipping. Not really, but yeah. The only problem with having the dual on, or the weight on the dual, it takes a little extra work to get that dual off, but the best way to do it is just put that hole at the top, hang it with a chain, and they go on and off. But rather than eating up space in the shop, I might as well have them on the tractor. So I kind of forgot, to be honest with you, that the 8320 had them on the dual, so that's why I took them off the 7290 and then the 7290. We're going to be taking the duals on and off of that all the time, so there's no sense in having that extra weight to muscle around. So we're going to have to pull the tractor outside to do the other side, and that's basically what it is. There's a 450 and a 150, so adding 600 pounds. All right, we just rolled out the chisel plow, and I've got this Kubota SSV 65 in here. We have two of these. This is the newer one of the two. We got this back in October, and sometime around, well, I want to say it was around Christmas time. It didn't have that many hours on it, and it had some kind of a problem where it had derated the engine. We thought it was somewhat related to emissions or something, and being that it was on warranty, the dealer came and got it, and they ended up putting a new engine in it. So what I'm having trouble with right now is it won't unlock the hydraulic locks for the bucket here. I thought it was in the rocker switch. I ended up changing, I switched the switch out with the one that's in the other skid steer, which is like a 1.5 years old. That one's got 3,100 hours on it. This one's got 750. It needs an oil change, so I just ended up taking the skid plate off the back. I did blow out some crap here, but I thought I'd kind of show you how easy these units here clean up. There's another skid plate that I have off in the front, and that is right in the foot pedal area. There's another one down underneath, like down underneath the hydraulic pump. I don't think I got to take that one out. I think I can blow everything from the front to the back. But they clean up pretty easy. I've got to figure out what's going on with the locks. It is on warranty. I'm not going to put a lot of time into screwing around with it. I just get this thing cleaned up, get the oil changed on it, and if it's something that I can't figure out, I'll call the dealership and have them come and look at it, being that it's on warranty. But we're just gonna blow this out quick, get it cleaned off, dump the oil out of it, and get the oil changed here. Well, we're just about done with this job here. I've just got a little more oil to put into it. It cleaned up real nice. I ended up putting the skid plates all back on it here just a minute ago, and the problem that I found with the locks on the bucket, I found there to be a bad coil on the hydraulic valve for the lock system, and that valve is up in there, and the one coil to lock the cylinder is out of whack. So I've got to bolt the cab down, and as you can see, it's pretty well clean inside there. Everything kind of blew itself out and down onto the floor. It's a rather nice machine to, you know, clean out the belly pan on. They've got the skid plates on there in a pretty good spot, and we got a lot of stuff on the floor here. Now, a good thing to blow this off with, or blow a machine off with, if you've got a lot of wind that you can put into something, is just a blowout unit here. This is just a piece of air brake tubing. It's 1/2-inch tubing, maybe 1 foot to 14 inches long, and you can get it right in there and blow things out in a hurry. Now I'll end up calling the dealership that we bought this from tomorrow. I'll tell them what I have found. They'll probably drive all the way out here without a coil or any of the essential parts to fix it. They'll diagnose it, and then what they'll do is they'll have to drive all the way back to the shop. Then they'll call and tell me that they don't have the parts in stock, and we'll probably be waiting for this machine to be up and running for about a week. That's the one nice thing about John Deere. They have an excellent part system. And if the dealership doesn't have it, they have it the next day and they have you up and going. But this off-brand equipment here, their parts are nowhere near what the John Deere stuff is. So we're gonna get this wrapped up, get the cab closed up, and we're gonna roll it out the door so that we can have this bay open for the next thing that we have to pull in. And that is gonna do it for this video, folks. I wanna thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next video.